it doesn't stop there. Because before I read you some quotes, I want to also read you why I'm saying this to you. Remember when I brought up the 2024 U.S. Olympic roster, how she was left off of that and how stupid that was for Team USA women's basketball to leave her off? Remember I said that? They said this. This is where they're going now. Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment, and the evidence provides reasonable cause for a federal probe into potential civil rights violations. Am I making it up now? Remember I said this months ago. Remember I talked about people being jealous, the Cheryl Swoops of the world and others. Remember I pointed that stuff out? Remember I talked about the rough housing? Remember I talked about all of that? Let me read further. If the WNBA continues to allow this treatment of Caitlyn Clark.
Did you really think Caitlyn Clark's civil rights controversy was just about basketball? If you did, it's time to take a step back and reconsider. While the WNBA continues to pretend that this is all just normal competitive play, something far more significant and politically charged is unfolding behind the scenes. Forget about the usual federal investigations into sports leagues. We are now talking about Donald Trump actively monitoring the situation, waiting for the perfect moment to turn Caitlyn Clark into his political weapon against everything the WNBA represents. What's more disturbing is that they missed this critical point, one that no other mainstream outlet has been willing to discuss. Stephen A. Smith didn't just casually mention Trump's interest in the situation. He issued a direct warning to the WNBA that the sitting president is paying close attention. Trump is calculating and ready to use this civil rights story to advance his own political agenda for maximum impact. What's happening now is no longer a sports controversy. This is a sophisticated piece of political warfare disguised as an issue about basketball. Before I dive into the explosive details I've uncovered, I need you to hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to reveal will connect the dots that the mainstream sports media either can't see or refuses to acknowledge. There are signals coming from Washington that suggest this story is about to explode well beyond anything we've seen before in professional sports. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll break down exactly how Trump plans to use Caitlyn Clark as ammunition against the progressive sports establishment. We'll expose insider intelligence about Sophie Cunningham's whistleblower testimony, which is causing absolute panic within the WNBA. We'll even analyze why prediction markets are now offering odds on congressional hearings, as institutional money sees this constitutional crisis as inevitable. But first, let me read the temperature of the online conversation, because the digital breadcrumbs I'm following are painting a picture that should terrify league leadership.
The federal government should get involved with this because Ms. Clark's civil rights are being violated as she is targeted on the court, the basketball court, and no one's protecting her. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. I know a lot of people say it's sports, we should expect hard fouls, and I agree with that. I'm a sports fan. I like.
What you're hearing now is the sound of federal civil rights case building in real time. But here's the angle that no one's covering: the complex political chess game happening behind every one of these allegations. When Stephen A. Smith warns that Trump is closely monitoring the situation, he's not just talking about a passing presidential interest. He's talking about a political strategist who sees Caitlyn Clark's treatment by the WNBA as a perfect tool to stoke a culture war that benefits him politically. Now, think about the optics for just a minute. Here you have America's basketball sweetheart, a white, straight, Christian athlete from Iowa, being systematically targeted by a league that claims to pride itself on progressive values and social justice messaging. The irony is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. The very same league that constantly lectures the public about equality, inclusion, and fairness is allegedly creating a hostile work environment for its biggest stars simply because she doesn't fit into the preferred narrative. And as this situation unfolds, Trump is watching, ready to exploit it with the calculating precision of someone who has spent decades turning cultural controversies into political gold mines. The Wall Street Journal just handed him a civil rights framework that he can use to position himself as a defender of fairness and equality, while casting the WNBA as hypocritical progressives who talk a big game about justice, but practice the very discrimination they claim to fight. This isn't just basic political opportunism. This is the perfect setup for federal intervention. The Caitlyn Clark situation is now framed under the same legal umbrella as the Dorka Hamby pregnancy discrimination case, which already established that the WNBA is subject to federal civil rights oversight. That wasn't just a legal precedent. It was a vulnerability assessment. It demonstrated that the league could be federally regulated under workplace discrimination laws. Now, Caitlyn Clark's situation is being analyzed through the same legal framework, setting the stage for federal intervention. Hostile work environment, systematic exclusion, and desperate treatment. It all lines up, and Trump's team knows this. Official sources won't tell you, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, you'll see a different picture emerging. Sources suggest that Caitlyn Clark's agent may already be in talks with federal legal representatives, not to file a lawsuit, but for protection. Because what's happening here isn't just sports drama. It's evolving into a test case for how federal civil rights law applies to professional sports leagues. And here's where it gets truly dangerous for the WNBA elite. Trump doesn't need to create a controversy. All he needs to do is amplify the one that's already there. The Wall Street Journal has given him the institutional credibility he needs. Stephen A. Smith's warning has given him mainstream media validation. Congressional letters from Senator Jim Banks have provided him with official government documentation. All the pieces are in place for Trump to position this as a federal civil rights investigation, while also using to launch an all-out attack on progressive sports culture. This is political warfare at its most sophisticated level, using the left's own civil rights framework against them.
Now, a lot of people have been campaigning to reach out to the Justice Department here in our country to possibly look into this, man. I've been one saying that I definitely believe her civil rights has been broken. She has been simply assaulted damn near every time she's been on the court. There has been a clear agenda against.
This is the sound of grassroots anger, and Trump's political operation knows exactly how to weaponize it. When voices like John the Liquidator start calling for Department of Justice intervention, using terms like assaulted and clear agenda, you're hearing the exact emotional energy that political campaigns thrive on. But here's what nobody else is telling you. This isn't just about defending Caitlyn Clark anymore. This is about Trump using her situation to attack the entire progressive sports establishment. The WNBA, once considered a beacon of progressive ideals, now becomes a symbol of elite hypocrisy. The targeting of Clark becomes solid evidence of reverse discrimination, and the league's silence on the matter becomes irrefutable proof of institutional bias. But let's step into rumor territory now. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter has been so loud for months that it's impossible to ignore. The temperature of the online conversation indicates that Trump's political team has been closely monitoring social media sentiment surrounding the Caitlyn Clark situation. They've been tracking engagement metrics, measuring viral moments, and analyzing public reaction to every incident, because they understand something the WNBA leadership seems to be missing. This story has transcended sports. Reddit communities are split on whether this is a legitimate civil rights issue or just manufactured outrage. But that very division is what makes the situation politically valuable. Trump can appeal directly to his base by defending the Iowa farm girl against elite progressives, while simultaneously attracting moderate voters who see the obvious unfairness in Clark's treatment. The viral nature of this story is off the charts because it taps into multiple psychological triggers all at once. You've got underdog sympathy, anti-establishment anger, gender dynamics, racial tension, and institutional hypocrisy, all wrapped up in one powerful narrative. This is no longer sports drama. This is political dynamite. And here's the real nuclear option that no one's talking about, the antitrust exemption. The WNBA, like other professional sports leagues, operates with special legal protections that allow it to function like a monopoly. But those protections aren't permanent. Congress can revoke them. If Trump decides to weaponize Caitlyn Clark's situation, he doesn't just target the league with investigations. He could threaten their very business model by challenging their monopolistic protections. Imagine a congressional hearing where WNBA leadership is forced to justify their treatment of Clark while simultaneously defending their right to monopolistic legal protections. That's not just a PR nightmare. That's an existential threat to league survival.
Place a non-hostile work environment, are those rights being violated by the WNBA? And at the very least, there's a portion of this that says, because Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver, it seems to be nothing to see here, please move along. We're watching in front of our very eyes how differently these teams are treating the Indiana Fever without Caitlyn Clark on the court. 66%. Engagement on app, 613%. Merchandise sales, 601%. We've got an opinion commentary piece from the Wall Street Journal. Now, keep in mind, the Wall Street Journal has a readership of people that consume the Wall Street Journal across all political lines, okay? And the Wall Street Journal in this article is calling, or at least saying out loud, that maybe Caitlyn Clark's civil rights are actually being violated. Everybody's bragging about this 5-game winning streak. That is great. But Caitlyn Clark doesn't get to play under these circumstances, where these girls are just going out there and playing basketball. That doesn't get to happen for her.
Let's take another look at the numbers. 613% increase in app engagement, 601% jump in merchandise sales, and a 360% rise in viewership. Caitlyn Clark isn't just driving revenue for the WNBA. She's single-handedly making the league relevant in the mainstream. Yet how has the WNBA responded? With complete silence while she gets excluded from Olympic rosters and treated like an afterthought, despite her massive contribution to the league's success. From a political warfare standpoint, this is perfect ammunition for Trump. He can point to concrete statistical evidence showing that the WNBA is sabotaging its own success because of ideological bias. The economic case writes itself. Progressive politics are literally killing women's sports. But here's where things take an even darker turn. Sophie Cunningham has emerged as an unexpected key player in this narrative, and her role is far more significant than most people realize. Her podcast revelations about the Phoenix Mercury's plans to target Caitlyn Clark aren't just insider gossip. They could be the whistleblower testimony that validates every theory about federal intervention. The temperature of online conversations suggests that Cunningham's revelations are driving massive social media growth and merchandise sales, especially among fans who support Clark. But politically, Sophie Cunningham represents something even more valuable: institutional validation from within the league itself. When a current WNBA player essentially confirms that targeting strategies exist, it stops being speculation and becomes hard evidence. And Trump's team knows how to use that kind of insider testimony to argue that the targeting of Clark isn't accidental, it's coordinated. And this gets even more sophisticated. Prediction markets are now offering odds on federal investigations and congressional hearings. When professional gamblers start betting on government intervention in sports leagues, you know things have escalated. As I've connected the dots, what I'm seeing is a timeline that should terrify WNBA leadership. The Wall Street Journal article provided the legal precedent, Stephen A. Smith provided the mainstream media validation, Senator Jim Banks gave official government documentation, and Sophie Cunningham's insider testimony offered institutional proof. All Trump needs now is the right moment to tie everything together into a comprehensive attack on progressive sports culture. With Caitlyn Clark as a sympathetic figure at the center, the political narrative practically writes itself. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, a different picture emerges. The civil rights angle gained legal precedent through the Dorica Hamby pregnancy discrimination case, which established that the WNBA is subject to federal civil rights oversight. That wasn't random. It was strategic infrastructure building, creating the legal framework for exactly the kind of federal intervention that's being discussed around Caitlyn Clark. This isn't just a sports issue. It's about transforming how professional sports leagues operate under federal oversight. When Trump chooses to weaponize this, he won't just be attacking the WNBA. He'll be challenging the entire progressive sports establishment on their own civil rights turf. And the beauty of this political strategy lies in its simplicity. Trump doesn't need to create evidence of discrimination. It's already been provided by the Wall Street Journal. He doesn't need to manufacture controversy. It's already been documented with video evidence. He doesn't need to establish victim credibility. Caitlyn Clark's widespread popularity guarantees that. All Trump has to do is amplify existing concerns and reframe them politically, using the left's own civil rights framework against them. The timing is perfect. The WNBA's profile has never been higher thanks to Caitlyn Clark. making any controversy highly visible. The league's progressive branding makes it the perfect target for anti-establishment messaging, while Clark herself becomes a symbol of a hard-working athlete victimized by elitist progressives. The narrative symmetry here is almost too perfect to be coincidence. So, what's fact and what's speculation? Let's break it down. The facts are clear. Stephen A. Smith warned that Trump is watching. The Wall Street Journal has published legal analysis of civil rights violations. Congressional involvement is real. Sophie Cunningham's testimony is out there, and there's growing speculation about federal investigations. The pattern is undeniable, and the political implications are staggering. Trump has the perfect weapon to attack progressive sports culture, wrapped in the language of civil rights that makes it politically bulletproof. But when the weapon is deployed, what happens next? The WNBA's response could determine whether this is just a crisis of the league or the beginning of a larger constitutional battle that could reshape professional sports forever.